A sneak peek of this on the Remix Morning Show over on Black Power Media earlier this week, but here we are in our new established place for Burn It Down with Kim Brown. And I know that wall looks a little naked. Fret not, we have some very cool things that are going to go up there. I know it's not going to be the same as the albums. I know y'all have grown quite accustomed to seeing Raekwon and Incubus behind me, but there's going to be some cool shit back there, y'all. Forthcoming. So I'd like to welcome you all to our brand new space where we set oppression ablaze here on Burn It Down with Kim Brown. Hopefully Friday's been good to you so far. Come on in here, y'all. Hold on. Actually, let me get y'all pulled up on here because I'm not going to lie, because I'm in a new space. I am what you call a tad bit discombobulated. But we're going to work this out. We have a fantastic show on deck for you today. As you all know, this week we have been talking about the Supreme Court. The Trump court, basically. Biden may be in office, but this is basically Trump's Supreme Court that we're looking at. On Tuesday, we talked about the issue of qualified immunity, the two cases that the court ruled on back in October, basically upholding qualified immunity, standing with the police. And today, we're going to be discussing the two very important abortion cases before the court. Now, listen, I know we have a lot of gentlemen that watch this program. Gentlemen, if you are friends with uteruses, if you love uteruses, if there are uteruses in your life that you care about and want nothing but the best for them, this too is a conversation for you, because you need to understand how important abortion access is to all women. And it's really fucked up that in the United States of America, Roe versus Wade is very much on the books, and yet these conservative states and their conservative legislators and their conservative governors and their conservative pro-life movement try over and over and over and over and over and over again to get rid of Roe. And that has everything to do with us living in a very patriarchal society. This country does not think that women are entitled to say what goes on with our bodies. And then conversely, this country does not want to educate children about sex and about how babies are made, so that young people, and all people really, can make informed decisions about their sexual and reproductive health. Okay. And so our guest today, we're going to be speaking with Garnet Henderson. Garnet is a freelance journalist who reports extensively about issues of abortion, and she is the host of a podcast called Access, the Access Podcast. Answers all the questions you ever wanted to know about abortion access and abortion restrictions, consequently. So Garnet's going to be joining us a little bit later in the program. And before we get started with the show, hold on, let me get in this chat, because I don't know what's happening. I feel cut off from my people if I'm not observing the chat, because the chat is extremely important here on the Burn It Down with Kim Brown program. Because as far as I'm concerned, y'all my 12th mans. And girls and theys. What's the gender neutral way to say 12th man? Like, let me know. I would like to know what that is. But whatever y'all is, 12th man, 6th man, 12 person, be that for us here at the program. And I so appreciate it. Who we got in here? I see Chuck Dazo. I see Ready Revolutionary. Thank you for coming on over from Black Power Media and joining us here on the program. We got Anna Hart. We got Frana French. Oh shit, we got people dropping us $1. Who just dropped us $5? Who threw down $5 on it? Yes, sir. Come through, Silky Slim. Save the uteruses. Yes. Save the uteruses. Thank you, Silky Slim, for that. We appreciate that. Throwing $5 down on the program real quick. Hey guys, also, hold on, before we jump into the show, don't forget that we are still in the midst of our subscriber drive. And I'm not gonna lie, it's been a little underwhelming. With me, we've picked up a few hither and thither. Shout out to everyone who has followed us on Twitter at Burn It Down KB. Yeah, we got over the 1,700 mark. So shout out to everyone who joined us over there. I don't know what we're doing on Facebook. And here on the good YouTube program, I don't know where we are either. We're like 2,200 and some change. But do me a favor. Just spread the word. Just let everybody know that Burn It Down with Kim Brown is not only a safe space where we set oppression ablaze, but it is a safe space where we set marijuana ablaze. It's a safe space where we basically take a frank look at politics and cultural issues and we talk about them seriously, but guess what? We do get these jokes off, baby, and it don't matter. Ain't nobody safe over here. Anyone can get it, even fans in the stands. I feel this thing is like a cyst growing out every time I look around. I'm like, God damn, that joint is huge. Yes, we're gonna work on all this, but yes. So do us a favor, help us out, help us get our subscribers up and our followers up at different places around the internet. We're on Facebook and Instagram at BIDWKB, Twitter, Burn It Down KB, and we're on TikTok also, and of course here on the platform. Did we do the Twitch thing? Are we twitching today? Okay, we're gonna be on Twitch soon. We're gonna be on Twitch soon. They say Twitch is an interesting place for people like us who talk about the things that we do. So we're gonna go over there and get on Twitch soon. What's up, Shirley? What's up, Mark S? What's up, David Wardrop? Thank you, David. I'm seeing some new names in here, which is always wonderful. We always have space for you here at Burn It Down with Kim Brown. Prince of Julius 79's been rocking with us for a very long time. Nice to see you in the building, good man. Yeah, Northern Witch, my baby, is in here. Vespa X, thank you for spreading the word, Vespa X. I know you have been spreading the word, and I appreciate that, babe. Thank you so much. But the first part of the program that we're going to deal with today, guys, as I just said this on the Patreon pre-show, okay, like with intention, I have been avoiding the Kyle Rittenhouse trial in Kenosha, Wisconsin. With intention, I have been avoiding the murder trial of the killers of Ahmaud Arbery for the very simple fact that I'm not interested in getting my heart broken behind these murderous white people getting off. And we know here in the United States, there's a very good chance murderous white people get off. There's a very good chance murderous white people get off for murdering black people. In the case of Kyle Rittenhouse, there's a very good chance that white people get off for murdering race traitors. As I suspect that a good deal of racist white America views the two victims that Kyle Rittenhouse shot and killed that night in Kenosha. Like race traitors, like racist white America is okay with race traitors. Who are race traitors? N-word lovers, you know who you are. And other race traitors include those who show up, love the gays. That's kind of like a race traitory kind of thing. My perception is that from racist white America, of course, we'd have to consult some actual racist white Americans to get their definitions as what they consider to be a race traitor. But generally, standing with non-whites is a good way to get kicked out. It's a good way to get your white card semi-revoked out here. And that is exactly how it appears everything surrounding the Kyle Rittenhouse case is going. The judge, made his outlandish decision, as everyone knows, to refer to the murder victims only as looters and rioters. Well, that indicates a little bit of bias. And I tried to tune in to watch a little bit of the court proceedings live today, and I saw the judge just flat out leaning on the prosecutor. And he was screaming at them Bamas yesterday. I see now, like, Jesus, is the prosecution trying to lose this? Possibly so. We discussed this on the Remix Morning Show the other day. Let's not fool ourselves into thinking that all prosecutors are out here trying to secure a conviction in the interest of justice, right? Again, this goes back to the hypocrisy of the myth of partially of the myth of American exceptionalism, the white supremacist nature of this country. Like, if you think that these people are interested in justice, no, they are not. They are simply interested in upholding the white supremacist system. And for reasons, Kyle Rittenhouse represents exactly that, right? He's hitting all the buttons. He's got the baby white face, right? He ain't a cute son bitch. He's an ugly little son bitch, but he got the baby white face. He busted out the white tears, trying to play that white fragility card. Shit, racists want to talk about the race card. How come we don't never talk about this white fragility card, them white tears card? Everyone seems to think that it's just the Becky water. It's only the white women's. When white women start busting out in tears, then it is usually accompanied by accommodation and sympathy, right? But no. that Becky water goes both ways. Bucky, let's call it Bucky water. Bucky water also works just as well, as we will see with Kyle Rittenhouse. Cause this son bitch is about to walk, man. He's about to walk. And listen, if you are one of our John Brown Brigade whites out here, hey, just got your name all over it, because his victims were white. So this is where we need our John Brown Brigade to intercede on behalf of their fallen comrades, our fallen comrades. I mean, no matter what, them people were out there on behalf of Black lives, right? The victims of Kyle Rittenhouse. But at the same time, if this miscarriage of justice is allowed to travail, if you remember the John Brown Brigade, that means y'all not safe either, right? That means if you happen to show up at a demonstration or something to protest injustice, and some fucking right-wing vigilante shows up armed and decides to start letting off, this is where that white privilege becomes a tad bit eroded. When you become a race traitor and an N-word lover, you get white privilege demerits. I don't know this. This is just what it looks like to me from the outside. You get white privilege demerits, and then your whiteness is eroded. Your white power is somehow subdued. But your righteousness is embiggened. Yes, your righteousness with the Lord. Yes, sir. Jesus will anoint you for all that. All you N-word lovers are going to heaven. Don't let the racists tell you anything different. Y'all coming straight to heaven. Who just dropped us some bucks? Of course, Northern Wedge. What's going on, sis? Northern Witch says she's looking forward to us being on Twitch. Can't believe you're going to be on Twitch. I'm so excited. I can mod for you. Yes, you will. Thank you. Thank you, Northern Witch. I will share the show all over Twitch. This is going to be... See, Tunde, look at us. We already got some Twitch support. Tunde, hop on here real quick. Tunde was doubtful that anybody would watch us on Twitch. Tunde, look at us. We already got a moderator on Twitch, Tunde.
All right. No, I'm joking. It's a big deal. I'm about to say, thank you, Northern Witch. We really do appreciate it. It's just, trying to manage platforms, but not like mastering them. I think might be not a smart game, but if we hop on there, who knows? Maybe we might pop. So it's always worth a try.
Yes, there we go. Tunde, pessimistic Scorpio, ladies and gentlemen. It's Scorpio season. Let that pessimism rain down. But no, I'm just fucking with you. But yes, but thank you, Northern Witch, for that support. We are looking forward to getting started over on Twitch. But back to the Rittenhouse thing, y'all. His counsel yesterday issued or was it 2 days ago, that they made a motion requesting a mistrial with prejudice, asking for the case to go away, be dismissed with prejudice, which means if the judge rules in favor of the defense motion, then that's it. He won't be tried anymore for murdering two people in Kenosha, which is very, very much on brand. But what people actually have been really talking about, the big talker today, let me go back to my doc, is what's happening in Georgia with the trial of the people who killed Ahmaud Arbery, the McMichaels and their buddy Roddy. And again, I would actually, I don't have no big issue with Roland Martin. Let me just be clear about that. I know Roland has been doing a very good job of giving daily court updates from the trial of Ahmaud Arbery's killers. So I don't discourage you from going to check out other outlets that have been following this very closely. And the reason I have not been following this very closely, to be very honest with you guys, is to help preserve my mental health, right? Like, I can't stand to see the killers of Black people go free. That fucks with me. That bothers me. It bothers my spirit. After the murders of Trayvon Martin and Tamir Rice and Michael Brown, like the way that those cases played out, like it took a bit of a toll, you know what I mean? Like mentally, because I'm like, wow, there's no justice for Black children out here, right? Like, our children are not safe, not only from white and white adjacent vigilantes, but also not safe from the police. And there's no accountability. George Zimmerman didn't go to jail. Timothy Loman, the man who murdered Trayvon Martin, didn't go to jail. And I believe Michael Brown's killer was named Darren Wilson. All them son bitches is free as birds, free as fucking birds. And the way that Ahmaud was taken from his family was so heartbreaking, but it was so reminiscent of a good old fashioned American lynching. And the way that these white killers have responded, not only by pleading not guilty, but trotting out all the usual racist tropes. They thought he was a criminal, thought he was breaking into some shit that wasn't even fucking theirs, right? And what else did they say? Oh, they said they had him cornered like a rat, like making all these animalistic comparisons to Ahmaud, dehumanizing him. And the way that Ahmaud also was treated by the police when they arrived on scene. The police didn't even render first aid. Pieces of shit. Pieces of shit. There's no way around that. But let's be clear. I mean, Georgia, as our good friend Kalonji Chongo would be happy to remind everybody, that there's Atlanta, and then there's Georgia. And then there's Georgia full of good old boys and girls, rednecks, whatever the fuck you want to call them, racist as shit, come from long lines, of old-fashioned racists, them George Wallace racists. Yes, sir, them Bull Connor racists. But something that hopped up at everybody's, out of everybody's earbuds yesterday, was the defense attorney for one of the defendants down there in Georgia made a specific complaint about the presence of Reverend Al Sharpton. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard this clip. I'm going to play the clip because it's still so outrageous to even listen to it. I was like, wow, this white man got up there and said this shit with his whole chest. Like, felt no embarrassment, like felt no misgivings whatsoever about saying this shit. And let me be clear, to me, this is not about Al Sharpton, right? Like, it really could have been anybody. It could have been Louis Farrakhan. It wouldn't have made a goddamn difference. The problem is that the racisms cannot be contained. You can only pretend to hide the racism for so long, and eventually that racism is going to bubble up and overflow and cannot even be disguised, nor hidden, nor any of that, right? And so for this man to get up here and complain about the presence of Al Sharpton, basically what this lawyer, this attorney got up there and said is that the family does not deserve support. The family does not deserve any high profile support. Somehow the presence of this singular Black person who has celebrity status is more bias than the presence of only one lone Black juror on the jury. It's ridiculous. Tunde, let's get that queued up. I think that is the good A1, and this clip is from First Coast News. I think they're out of Jacksonville, Northeast Florida, if I have that right. Did I look weird? Is my shirt doing weird things? It's fine, whatever. But anyway, we're about to play the clip. So listen to the attorneys for one of the killers. I'm not sure if this is the McMichael father and son duo or that other racist son bitch. But it's one of them son bitches. So this is the defense attorney basically saying, we don't need no more Black pastors. What?
While I was cross-examining investigator Lowry yesterday, is that the Right Reverend Al Sharpton managed to find his way into the back of the courtroom. I'm guessing he was somehow there at the invitation of the victim's family in this case. And I have nothing personally against Mr. Sharpton. My concern is that it's one thing for the family to be present. It's another thing to ask for the lawyers to be present. But if we're going to start a precedent starting yesterday, we're going to bring high-profile members of the African-American community into the courtroom to sit with the family during the trial in the presence of the jury. I believe that's intimidating, and it's an attempt to pressure, could be consciously or unconsciously, an attempt to pressure or influence the jury. To my knowledge, Reverend Al Sharpton has no church in Blaine County, never has. Hasn't been here since Elaine Brown ran for mayor, to my knowledge. But we have all kinds of people. We have school board members. We have county commissioners. We have all kinds of pastors in this town, over 100. The idea that we're going to be serially bringing these people in to sit with the victim's family one after another, obviously there's only so many pastors they can have. And the fact that their pastor's Al Sharpton right now, that's fine, but then that's it. We don't want any more black pastors coming in here, or other, Jesse Jackson, whoever was in here earlier this week, sitting with the victim's family, trying to influence a jury in this case. And I'm not saying the state is even aware that Mr. Sharpton was in the courtroom. I certainly wasn't aware of it till last night. But I think the court can understand my concern about bringing people in who really don't have any ties to this case other than political interests. And we want to keep politics out of this case. So I'm asking the court to take appropriate steps to make sure that the gallery, which is already limited in this case, isn't being utilized for a purpose that could be viewed as improper. Thank you.
So the state had no part in that whatsoever. So the state is unaware of how that occurred or how he came to be seated with the family.
If a bunch of folks came in here dressed like Colonel Sanders with white masks sitting in the back, I mean, that would be a problem.
So
Colonel Sanders with white mask, is that the equivalent to Al Sharpton? I'm very confused. Did Colonel Sanders used to lynch people? I'm very confused. was Colonel Sanders out here causing domestic terrorism on black communities in white masks? I'm so confused by every single part of what that man had to say about everything. Okay,
hey, look,
everything. What's up?
Hey, look, I don't mean to butt in real quick, but what I aspire to in my life, what I really deeply desire in my own life is to have the courage to say all of that and to have the privilege to not think anything of it. He had a sincere look on his face, like he was just saying like, hey, no, for sure, we should just do this. I need that kind of courage in my life. It'll take me far, to far reaching places.
I mean, for Christ's sake, Judge, why in the world would the family of a murder victim have faith leaders sit with them in the courtroom? How the hell is that fair? How is that fair? I mean, white supremacy is certainly determined to really tell black people what is right and wrong in every single facet of our existence. It is not okay for black families to grieve with faith leaders. It's not okay for the family to even be present at the trial. Did you hear that motherfucker? He was like, it's bad enough the family is here. It's bad enough their lawyers are here. But now they got Al Sharpton in here. Jesus Christ. And I bet you they call themselves conservative Christians, right? But the presence of Reverend whomever, it didn't even have to be Al Sharpton. It happened to be Al Sharpton, but it surely did not have to be Al Sharpton. Any uppity member of the clergy who happened to be black and happened to have a little bit of profile, a little bit of status, was going to be singled out by that defense attorney with all the white privilege that they could muster. Now, to the judge's credit, I guess the judge, like, he very easily shot this shit down. He was like, basically, he's like, first of all, nigga, I didn't even know Al Sharpton was in it. He said, Al Sharpton didn't come in here, make a disturbance, make a distraction, none of that. And then the judge was like, nigga, you didn't even know Al Sharpton was in here. Somebody had to tell you that Al Sharpton was in here yesterday, and here you come complaining. And the judge was like, you got a motion or no? And the dude was like, nah, I ain't really got no more. All right, nigga, then shut your racist ass down. You just wanted to just double down on the racism. Just to be clear, that not only his clients, the defendants, are racist as fuck, not only based on their actions, but their subsequent statements after murdering Ahmaud. But he just wanted to be clear that they are united front here. This is the racism coalition here. This is white versus black. And make no mistake about it. And I was watching some of the live coverage from First Coast News. And the reason I didn't pull this clip is because, you know, there are certain black people that I'm cool with ridiculing when they do goofy shit and they, represent their elite class interests, etc. But there's this lady who like represented like the clergy association or something down there in Brunswick. And she was on some very big respectability nonsense. And I did not want to make fun of this woman basically on the program because, I don't know, part of me felt as though that would have been disrespectful because she was leading with the Lord. But then she come talk about, well, this kind of thing doesn't happen here in this community. I love this community. This community is this community is that. Baby girl, this community harbors people that feel comfortable hunting Black people down in the streets like they are actual prey. So your community might generally be nice. I'm certain it is. But the fact that it harbors very dangerous, murdering racists almost invalidates how nice, however you think your community is. Trust me. I grew up in such a community, most people consider a nice community. I've had enough racist experiences in the neighborhood that I grew up in to know that nowhere is safe for Black people. I mean, it doesn't really matter where it is. New York City is not safe for Black people. Los Angeles is not safe for Black people. Rural Georgia is not safe for Black people. Prince George's County, Maryland is not safe for Black people. And again, that is the thing that all of us unfortunately have to go with daily, is that at any given point, a racist white vigilante or a cop who does not necessarily have to be white can take the life of a Black person who may or may not be doing anything wrong, doesn't even have to have provoked the situation, literally minding our business. Ahmaud was literally jogging down the street, unaware that he was even being hunted, right? And that is what Black people in America live with every single day, and we live with it personally, and we live with it by extension through our family and our loved ones. So I am not sure how this outcome is going to turn out. I am not confident in a jury that only has one person of color to be able to stand up against any sort of racist nonsense that they will undoubtedly encounter while deliberating. And I wanted to give an example of that, everybody, because we are not that far away from the anniversary of when Trayvon Martin was murdered. And we know what that outcome was. His killer, George Zimmerman, was acquitted. The jury was mostly white. Everybody was white. Prosecutors was white. Defense attorney was white. I'm thinking about Trayvon's friend, his Haitian buddy, his Haitian American friend who testified, Rachel Jeantel, and the sort of ridiculous scrutiny and criticism that she received just simply for showing up and being herself, right? But anyway, it was so many layers and other circumstances happening around the Trayvon Martin trial, the trial of George Zimmerman for murdering Trayvon Martin. But I wanted to play y'all a clip that I found from ABC News. It's when Robin Roberts interviewed the lone non-white juror on the George Zimmerman jury. And I'm playing this for you because in the case of Kyle Rittenhouse, I believe there is one non-white person on the jury. The same thing with the killers of Ahmaud Arbery. There is one non-white person on the jury. And in the heat of the moment, people can fold, okay? People can wilt. And on top of that, just because these people are either Black or non-white, doesn't mean that they righteous Black or non-white. They could be trying to brown nose with the white folks. So I mean, shit, it could be fucking Candace Owens type motherfucker for all we know, right? On them juries. But I wanted to just take a listen about, from this juror's perspective, the non-white juror on the George Zimmerman jury, their perspective on what it was like to be deliberating with a bunch of other white folks in a racially charged sort of trial. So the clip is going to begin with Robin Roberts setting up where a different juror gave an interview with CNN and tried to diminish the importance or the role that race played in the deliberations. And then she's going to come back and speak with the Afro-Latina juror who still voted to acquit George Zimmerman. Let's take a look at that.
2 days after the verdict, another juror, B37, spoke to Anderson Cooper on CNN.
I think both were responsible for the situation they had gotten themselves into. I think both of them could have walked away.
There were some things that the other juror said that you wanted to respond to.
B37 used the word we. I guess because we were in a jury together, she put it all as in a group. And the way she made a lot of us sound was, we walk by color. And that's not what I do.
And that was something that a lot of people from the outside thought must have been the discussion in the deliberations about race, about color, but that wasn't the case?
It was not the case.
In their first vote, B37 told CNN 3 jurors wanted not guilty. 1 wanted murder, second degree, and 2 wanted manslaughter.
What was your first vote?
My first vote was second degree murder.
How did you go from, in 9 hours, from feeling he was guilty of second degree murder to not guilty?
In between that 9 hours, it was hard. A lot of us that wanted to find something bad, something that we could connect to the law, because for myself, he's guilty. Because the evidence shows he's guilty.
He's guilty of?
Killing Trayvon Martin. But as the law was read to me, if you have no proof that he killed them intentionally, you can't say he's guilty.
What was going on in your mind, your heart?
I was the juror that was going to give him the hung jury. Oh, I was. I fought to the end.
Do you have regrets that you didn't?
Kind of. I mean, I'm the only minority, and I felt like I let a lot of people down.
I mean, you could feel as though you let a lot of people down. At the end of the day, you let a child killer roam free. And again, I'm not trying to be too harsh on this sister, whether or not she knows she's a sister or not. I don't see color brown ass. Okay, whatever you say there, Chief. Anyway, she let a child killer go free. And again, I'm not trying to place all the blame on her, because obviously the system of white supremacy had to fix in from the very beginning, right? George Zimmerman, brown himself, but though adjacent enough to whiteness that he was able to assume the cover of whiteness. And of course, he was anti-black and racist enough that the whiteness would let him in. The racist whiteness, of course, I'm speaking of, would embrace someone like George Zimmerman. Of course, Trayvon Martin was a thug. He was young, black, and had the audacity to be out after dark. And didn't he know that Florida was sundown state? His fault from their perspective, of course, right? But this is the kind of thing that I'm concerned is going to happen with this Rittenhouse trial and the killers of Ahmaud Arbery, is that whomever the lone non-white jurors are, it's not ever going to be enough to overcome white supremacy. And of course, a lot of people are arguing that, biased all-white juries, number one, cannot be expected to render justice. And in most cases, I would absolutely agree with that. I know the most famous case of an all-white jury actually rendering justice for a black person, the only one I can think of is Angela Davis. Angela Davis was freed by an all-white jury, if memory serves, and I'm sure people in 1973, or I think that was the year that her trial happened, was extremely shocked by that. But irregardless, we cannot have faith in the system. We understand that the system does not work for us. It overwhelmingly works against us. And for anyone who may have even temporarily thought that the conviction of Derek Chauvin in the murder of George Floyd was an indication that justice for black people was going to be the norm, no, it is still very much an outlier, still very much an exception. And I think that guilty verdict was there to preserve the city of Minneapolis, right? So in an effort to preserve property, they were able to sacrifice one of the members holding up the institution of racist white supremacy. But I am not certain that Ahmaud Arbery's killers are going to be convicted, nor am I convinced that Kyle Rittenhouse is going to be convicted. So we will keep an eye on that, guys. So we're getting ready to bring on our guest, Garnet Henderson, to talk about what's going on with the Supreme Court and some of these pending abortion cases. Just wanted to give everybody a quick reminder. First of all, hi, greetings from the fire pit. We are here in the fire pit, our brand new home for the Burn It Down with Kim Brown entity, whatever this is. This is still our safe space of set oppression ablaze. We appreciate everybody's support. And if you're watching us, please do me a favor and smash subscribe. We've got close to 80 people with us today. So let's get those thumbs up. Let's get those likes up. And please do us a favor and follow us places around the internet at BIDWKB on Facebook, on Instagram. We're on TikTok. Soon to be on Twitch. We will let you know when that launches. And of course, if you want to support us, Black Magic. Thank you, Black Magic. Black Magic cash app us some money today. Thank you, Black Magic. And I know we got some new patrons. Molly, if you can help me tell me who the two new patrons are, I would appreciate that because I have misplaced my phone. But never mind, I found my phone. Give me a second. Hold on. Let me thank our patrons specifically because I certainly appreciate y'all. What's up, Tunde? Okay. All good. Wait, that's not my Burn It Down with Kim Brown folder. Okay. We got some new patrons. And if you want to help us out on Patreon, it's very easy. Patreon.com/BIDWKB. We're still giving 15% off of annual memberships if you're at the $2 tier. Oh, thank you, Molly. If you're at the $2 tier, it's $20.40 for the year. If you're at the $5 tier, that'd be $51. That's it. So thank you so much to Cheryl Lawrence. Thank you, Cheryl. And thank you so much to Cassie Radicles. Damn, maybe should I be saying y'all full government names? Every time I do that, I'm like, shit, I don't think I should be saying people's government names out here. But there's probably a lot of y'all, a lot of Cheryls out here. Anyway, thank you all so much for your support and supporting this Black woman-led independent media outlet here on the good YouTubes. Guys, okay, so I wanted to move along because this is a very important discussion. Like I said, if you are a uterus owner or you care about a uterus owner, this is absolutely the discussion for you because abortion is a very important part, at least to have an option, whether or not you actually ever utilize abortion services yourself. For abortion services to be available at reach is extremely, extremely important because every abortion is not necessarily the result of an unwanted pregnancy. People terminate pregnancies for all kinds of reasons, medical reasons. You know, what if you have a mental health reason that you are not prepared to deal with the responsibility of a child? You should not be forced to do any of that. So I'd like to bring on our next guest who is well-versed in all questions pertaining to abortion, who's going to let us know about the conditions on the ground outside of what's happening in the courts. Like, what's it like for someone who is trying to get an abortion in, say, Texas or Mississippi or Missouri, and you're met with not only hostile laws, but hostile fucking people outside the abortion clinic talking shit to you in a very vulnerable situation. So please, Burn It Down with Kim Brown fam, help me welcome Garnet Henderson. Garnet is a freelance journalist, and Garnet is also the host of the Access podcast, where they answer all of your questions about abortion, about anything that you might want to know about this very, very important constitutional right that people with uteruses have. Garnet, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It's a pleasure to have you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So, Garnet, I want us to get into the Supreme Court cases that are pending a little bit later. But first, I want to talk to you about what's it like for people who live in abortion restrictive states, reproductive rights restrictive places like Texas, where this punitive law has been enacted by the conservative legislature there, and also places like Mississippi, where women trying to go to the Pink House, to the only women's services clinic in the entire state there in Jackson, are met with constant harassment and barrage and insults and threats and the like. So for women that live and people who can get pregnant, who live in abortion restrictive states, what is that experience like for them?
Sure. Well, the right to have an abortion has been a right on paper only for many people in the United States for quite a long time now. That's true particularly across the South, especially the southeastern corner of the United States and in the Midwest. So right now there are 6 states that have only one brick and mortar abortion clinic left. And many other states that do have clinics, but they aren't necessarily easy for people to access because the states have large rural areas where people would be forced to travel long distances to seek care. And, especially in those states, not a lot of doctors in private practice offer abortion care. So if you need an abortion, you're either going to a clinic or you're getting your pills or other means of self-managed abortion on your own. So for a lot of people, especially people of color, low-income people, and young people, right now there are lots of people who can't even get an abortion if they want one because it's just too difficult to access.
I want us to take a look, if we could. Tunde, it's going to be A3. So this package was from Jackson, Mississippi. This was about 6 months ago, where they did a report about the sort of threats and harassment that not only people who are seeking abortion services encounter the few days a week that this only abortion provider is open, but the people that also work at the Pink House in Jackson, they also encounter constant threats and harassment. So I want us to take a look at that, if we could.
So protests and prayer gatherings are nothing new outside the state's only abortion clinic, but on a weekly basis, more people have been showing up with loudspeakers and loud microphones, creating a hostile atmosphere for patients.
You don't have to help her kill her child, sir.
This is a slavery and a bondage for babies to be murdered.
On any of the 3 days a week the clinic is open, interactions like this are constant for patients trying to get to their appointments.
You're on a bullhorn yelling, please don't kill your baby. If you go in there, you're still going to be the mother of a dead baby. People screaming at you that you're going to hell. Getting up on a ladder and looking over a privacy fence at a medical facility, I don't see how there's not something illegal about that.
Clinic escorts have to direct cars pulling in and out of the clinic as anti-choice protesters attempt to block the driveway, then troll patients as they walk through the parking lot.
This is the slave ship of murder for innocent black, white.
It can be a stressful situation for people who are, trying to access an abortion. You don't know what's going on in their lives or what made them make this decision. So that's why I think, you never know what's going on in someone's life. So that's why I think it bothers me so much what the protesters do, because, they don't know these people.
Terrified is probably an understatement. A lot of women come here alone with people trying to stop you, standing in front of your car, screaming at the top of their lungs. Can't even imagine the experience myself.
Despite clearly violating both Mississippi state law and City of Jackson ordinances against noise complaints and public disturbance, these groups get away with almost no penalties.
Law enforcement basically leave them alone on anything. They can bring those ladders, they can not hold a sign, they can be as loud as they want, they can do pretty much whatever they want. So far, we can't even have trespassing enforced.
A 2008 and 2014 consent decree with Pro-Life Mississippi said Jackson unlawfully applied their sign, special events, and noise ordinances. The city was ordered to pay Pro-Life Mississippi and protest leaders $5,000 in full settlement for damages. That consent decree expired in 2017, but the volunteers who work with the clinic say it's like it's still in effect. While on site, we did run into one woman with Pro-Life Mississippi attempting to peacefully hand out pamphlets to patients with their versions of alternatives to abortion, claiming her one goal is only to fight for the unborn without harassing others. And lately, clinic escorts have also brought pepper spray in case anti-choice protesters get too hostile with them to use in self-defense. For more examples on these encounterments, head over to our website, WJTV.com.
That package there, WJTV down in Jackson. Garnet, so when you see scenes like that, some people in the chat, shout out to Steely Steve, said, where are the police? If even though there are only one women's services, health services provider there in Mississippi, these women are entitled to those services. They are entitled to go there and not be harassed and not be insulted. And it doesn't seem as though the police are doing anything to enforce the free traversing of people trying to just get medical services. Is this common in places where there are few, if any, abortion clinics?
It's extremely common, yes. Actually, Kim Gibson and Dorinda Hancock, who were speaking in that clip, have also been guests on my podcast. They're so tough because at that last clinic in Mississippi, they do deal with really aggressive and really loud harassment. I mean, some of the clips that we played on the show, you can hear that it's just a cacophony, really, that patients have to deal with when they're going to the clinic and inside the clinic. I mean, the protesters there stand up over the fence that surrounds the clinic with their bullhorns to scream into the clinic, not just at the people who are walking in. And this is really common in places where there's only one clinic. And it's also very common elsewhere. Anti-abortion protesters have really been escalating their tactics in recent years. There's another clinic called a Preferred Women's Health Center in Charlotte, North Carolina, where a local group, or a group that started in Charlotte, an anti-abortion group called Love Life, is headquartered, and they were given this property next to the clinic. So whoever owns that property donated it to Love Life. So they set up there what one of the volunteers told me they call Christian Coachella, a massive stage, amplified sound, and crowds of hundreds of people coming through every Saturday. And this weekend, actually, tomorrow, Love Life has a big annual parade, and that is tomorrow. And at that clinic in particular, there are massive crowds. They block the street, they trespass, they break all kinds of laws, and local law enforcement really just does nothing about it. In fact, sometimes they're openly sympathetic with the anti-abortion protesters.
So let me ask you, what is it that pregnant people do that perhaps are able, that live in an abortion restrictive place, that are able to possibly get to the abortion clinic, the lone abortion clinic that's open where they in the state that they live, and find themselves discouraged or even intimidated enough to be turned away? What usually happens to people who are intentionally trying to seek abortions and in the places that they live, and they're unable to do so? Do they resort to try to go to other places, other states where abortions are more friendly, or are they really forced to bear children that they either don't want or are unable to care for?
Really all of the above. Certainly many people are traveling for abortion care, especially people from Texas, where abortion is now essentially banned starting around 6 weeks. Even before that, abortion was so difficult to access in Texas that a lot of people were traveling for care. And that's true of people who live across the South and Midwest. Certainly, people are forced to carry their pregnancies to term. And there's a really large study called the Turnaway Study that compared people who were able to get the abortion they wanted to people who were not able to get that abortion and ended up carrying a pregnancy to term. And the study found that those people who had children as a result of an unwanted pregnancy were more likely to be low income, had lower educational attainment, generally were less financially secure. And often if they said that the relationship they were in was not ready to support a child, they were right, and those relationships ended. And actually, very few of those people choose adoption, which is interesting because adoption is often presented as an alternative to abortion, when really adoption is an alternative to parenting. So a lot of people who do end up having to carry a pregnancy to term do parent that child. And then, of course, there are many people who self-manage their abortions. That means they do their own abortion at home outside of a medical setting. That is very safe to do with abortion pills, which are fairly easy now to order online. But of course, the concern is that when people don't have access to good information about self-managed abortion, they might turn to less safe methods.
And you know, I wanted us to take a look at a clip because the ways in which the far right, the so-called pro-lifers, which, by the way, we all know these people don't care about these kids once they actually start arriving on the planet and start drawing breath. If they're black, brown, poor, they really don't care. And Mississippi is a very good example of that. Obviously, having these very restrictive abortion laws on the books, but Mississippi has horrible infant mortality outcomes. They have horrible maternal death rate outcomes, especially when it comes to African American women who oftentimes experience higher issues of problems during labor and during pregnancy that can result in death. But I want us to take a look, Tunde. What's these kids who are part of these pro-life movements doing these demonstrations? This particular one is a clip from the Federalist, and they were out in Santa Monica in California at a pro-life rally. And I just want us to kind of listen. I mean, Garnet, I'm sorry to subject you to these people that we're about to hear, but sometimes I think hearing what the far right crazies are actually saying is a to easily and quickly debunk any other sort of reasoning as to why women should be forced to bear children. So, Tunde, if we could please take a look at that clip from the Federalist.
What happens is the gals that are thinking about having an abortion, they go in and they hear the heartbeat of the baby. They hear the heartbeat of the baby and realize that they have a living human being inside of them.
You know, it says that God knew us in the womb. He wove us into the womb, and he knows our unseen substance. So that's life.
Hello, everybody. This is Spencer Lindquist with the Federalist, and today we are out here on the Santa Monica Pier at a rally for life. We're going to be interviewing the demonstrators. So could you tell me a little bit about why you're out here today?
I'm out here because I'm pro-life and because I want to support a cause that I think young people need to get involved in more.
Those babies, of which about 3,000 a day in the United States, still get aborted, get slaughtered, and we're trying to be a voice for the voiceless and be out there for them and stop basically the genocide of small children that was, years ago initiated by Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood to kill black babies, and now it's spread across the spectrum, and they're non-discriminate.
Where does your pro-life belief come from?
I'm Catholic. I think that's part of it. And also, I have 3 children.
In the end, God wins, and God doesn't want little babies murdered and slaughtered, every day in the United States and around the world, and it initiated as a satanic practice.
When I was in a large hospital in LA, and the OB suggested that I have an abortion because I wasn't yet married and because I was in an in-between place in my life. I expressed anxiety, and it was just the first place they went, and it kind of opened my eyes to how much this is just like in the air, in the water, in our culture, and it needs to be destroyed. It needs to be removed from our culture.
That lady says she has 3 kids. Please pray for that woman's 3 children. if you don't mind, send up a prayer for her kids, because I'm sure that they undoubtedly need it. So, Garnet, obviously, we know that the propaganda machine and the organized machine of the pro-life movement is extremely organized and well-funded and put together. But on the other side, like what if you could describe some of the reproductive rights actions and reproductive rights organizing that's happening, especially in the form of abortion funds for people that live in abortion restrictive states, or who may not even be able to afford abortions in places where abortion is available to them. Talk about the organizing from the repro rights side.
Absolutely. Abortion funds do incredibly important work. They do the obvious bit of helping people pay for abortions, but a lot of abortion funds also offer practical support. So they'll give you that ride that you need to get to your abortion. They'll give you a place to stay overnight if you have to travel. They'll provide childcare. They'll help fund not only the procedure itself, but the costs of your travel, the cost of lost wages from missing work is another big one for a lot of people. So abortion funds are amazing. And a lot of abortion funds are starting to join in lawsuits that challenge abortion bans. So they're also taking some really impressive proactive steps to protect abortion access in their communities. There are also a lot of organizations now that educate people about self-managed abortion. As I mentioned, self-managed abortion using pills is very safe and effective. A lot of people, frankly, prefer that option to having to go into a clinic. So there are lots of organizations out there spreading that information. And in general, I would say there's been a real change in reproductive rights and justice organizations where they're really trying to stop being on the defensive all the time. They're trying to be more offensive. They're trying to push proactive legislation to protect abortion access in states where doing that is a possibility right now. And they're also starting to have a much more explicitly pro-abortion message. So you're not hearing that 90s era thing that now a lot of people who work in reproductive rights hate, which is quote unquote safe, legal, and rare, right? But just going fully for destigmatizing abortion, abortion is normal.
Absolutely. And I know we have just a little bit of time left, and I do want us to talk about the Supreme Court cases. But before we talk about that, I just from someone that has reported extensively about this issue and interviewed obviously those who work in around reproductive justice and reproductive access for women, what is it that the party that is currently in political power in Washington, the party that occupies the White House, the party that has a majority in Congress, what is it that Democrats can do to expand abortion access? Because at the federal level, because it seems as though that so long as conservatives have Roe v. Wade as a means of as something to fight against, they are going to continually challenge this court decision. And is there something legislatively or even at the executive level that could be done to just ensure abortion access nationwide so that states could not bring these individual challenges?
Sure. There are three things. So there are two bills. One is the Women's Health Protection Act, which passed in the House of Representatives, probably cannot pass in the Senate without filibuster reform. But that is a law that would ensure that abortion must be legal in all states, at least up until the point of viability. It would repeal TRAP laws, that stands for Targeted Regulation of Abortion Provider. So these are the laws that just make it almost impossible to even run an abortion clinic. And it would repeal basically all of the abortion restrictions that many states have been putting in place, particularly over the last decade. There's another bill called the EACH Act that would repeal the Hyde Amendment, which is a rider that gets put into the spending package every year that says that federal funds cannot be used to pay for abortions. So that affects obviously people who are on Medicaid. It also affects federal employees, members of the military, Native Americans who rely on the Indian Health Service. So those are two bills that could be passed on the federal level that would make a huge difference. And then also we already have a law called the FACE Act, which makes it illegal to threaten, harm, or otherwise harass employees at abortion clinics. And that's something that, frankly, the federal government has not been using over the last decade, and it shows. So they could really step up enforcement of the existing FACE Act to try and crack down on some of these really aggressive protesters.
Yeah, the Democrats don't seem to be willing to do much to support policies that will actually, or rather even pass the policies that their base really relies upon. And that brings us to these challenges, in effect, to Roe v. Wade that are sitting in front of the Supreme Court. The Texas law, which everyone knows about, basically ends abortion after 6 weeks by allowing private citizens to sue other people that even participate in any way in trying to assist a woman in getting an abortion. And I believe the Mississippi bill, the Mississippi law, Garnet, help me, is it 16 weeks of pregnancy that abortions 15. Are banned after 16 weeks? 15 weeks. Okay. So obviously with the appointments of Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh, the court is decidedly more conservative and more likely to overturn Roe. But honestly, this Trump Supreme Court has surprised me a couple times, not necessarily when it comes to abortion issues, but on different rulings, not the qualified immunity one that we talked about earlier this week, but on different rulings, they have kind of surprised me. So what do we anticipate, not necessarily that the court will do, but perhaps the ways in which these laws could be invalidated by the Supreme Court in ways that they do violate or go against Roe?
Sure. Well, first, I'll just say that both of these laws, SB 8 in Texas and this Mississippi 15-week abortion ban, are both clear violations of Roe versus Wade, which says that abortion must be legal up until the point of fetal viability, which happens around 24 weeks, although even that is not a bright line. It's not as simple as people often want to present that issue of viability. And you mentioned Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh. And oddly enough, if the Supreme Court does block SB 8, we may have them to thank, because listening to oral arguments in the challenges to SB 8 that recently came before the Supreme Court, it did seem to be those two justices on the conservative side who had the biggest issues with that strange civil enforcement mechanism of SB 8 that you mentioned, where instead of having the state enforce it, they're relying on private citizens to bring lawsuits against people who aid or abet abortions. Other conservative justices didn't seem to have much of a problem with that, but Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh both kind of did. So of course, the Supreme Court could and should overturn this Mississippi 15-week abortion ban. With the current makeup of the court, it's possible that they could overturn Roe entirely. It's also possible that they may do something in between, where they're basically just going to let this clear violation of Roe versus Wade sail through, so that instead of officially saying, this is it, we're overturning Roe, they make up some justification for why this law is allowable. And then over the next few years, we just see them push it farther and farther and farther, allowing states to restrict abortion access more and more. When it comes to SB 8, that Texas law, right now the Supreme Court is being asked to decide on purely procedural questions, basically whether or not this is a law that can even be challenged in federal court. So that's what we're waiting to hear from them on right now. The Mississippi case, the oral arguments in that case are on December 1st, so they're coming right up. And in that situation, they are just being asked to determine whether or not this pre-viability abortion ban is constitutional. And when are any decisions expected in those cases? Is the court expected to rule on those this year? Yeah, well, technically next calendar year, 2022, but yes, this term, yeah. So that 15-week ban, we should hear about the court's decision in that case in the spring, which is normally when they release their decisions for all the cases on their regular docket. This Texas case is really confusing. Like I said, right now they've been asked to decide on some procedural questions. There are two lawsuits, one that was brought by Texas abortion providers and advocates, and another one that was actually brought by the Justice Department, by the United States against Texas. And in both those cases, the Supreme Court has been asked on an emergency basis to decide, is this a law that can be challenged in federal court, basically? So the tricky thing about that is that it's not a case that's on the court's regular docket. These emergency orders, they just issue at any time. So it's already been weeks since they heard oral arguments in those challenges to SB 8, which is pretty ridiculous when you think about it, just letting people in Texas wait for any longer to find out whether or not this law is going to be blocked or allowed to stand. Even if the Supreme Court decides that, yes, those cases can go forward, then it's just going to get bounced back to district court and federal appeals court. So that challenge is going to be ongoing for quite some time. And frankly, we have no idea when the Supreme Court's going to decide on that one. Could be tomorrow, could be months from now.
So, Garnet, let me ask you this, again, as a person who has reported upon this issue extensively and spoken with experts and people on the ground and those who have been doing this work for some time, what do you think is at the heart of the right's insistence on trying to get rid of Roe, of this insistence on forcing women to have children? Is it trying to make sure that people replace themselves in the labor force? Because I don't believe it's religious convictions at all. Like those yahoos that we saw in that piece from the Federalist down at Santa Monica Beach, the amount of homeless people they had to step over in order to have their little pro-life rally. Like I don't buy that it's such a religious conviction for them, even though that's what they scream and what they say. But I feel like there are other reasons behind this that have a lot to do with a hatred for women. Because you heard, even though we did hear those goofy women talk in that clip, most of these people are men who talk about this is wrong, this is an abomination against God. Although I hear them say nothing about any sort of penalties for the men who impregnate women who are seeking abortion services. What are your thoughts?
I do think that a lot of it is rooted in misogyny, a desire to control the bodies of women and marginalized people in general. Of course, trans men and non-binary people also get pregnant and have abortions. We know that the religious right also is currently attacking the rights of trans people to even exist. So I think for them, it's just kind of a nice side benefit that attacking abortion rights also really harms trans and non-binary people. I do think it's about wanting to, have patriarchal control of our society, but also that patriarchal family structure, right? Man is the head of the household. Everybody else stays home and does what he says. I think that's at play. And I also think there's a lot of racism at play. You mentioned a lot of leaders of the anti-abortion movement are men. That is certainly true, but a lot of them are white women as well. And we know that white women have always been able to get abortions in this country, wealthy white women at least. They've always been able to travel. I mean, before Roe versus Wade, wealthy women in this country flew out of the country to get their abortions. And that's what'll happen again with the wealthy white women who live in states that will ban abortion if Roe versus Wade is overturned or significantly weakened. So I think for them, it's about the control of bodies of people of color, especially Black people. I think that's really at the root of a lot of anti-abortion activism. It's racism and classism and misogyny.
Yeah, one of our viewers in the chat says that, they need people to fill these jails. This is why they want to compel Black and brown women to have children. So there are people to go in the jails to keep this system of white supremacy just rolling on and on. Well, Garnet, I really appreciate your time. I thank you so much for your expertise and for the work that you do on the Access podcast. Guys, when you get a chance, everywhere that you find your podcast, please subscribe to the Access podcast. Answering all questions about abortion, and is hosted by our wonderful guest today, Garnet Henderson, freelance journalist. And I certainly appreciate you making some time for us, Garnet, and answering some important questions, because there are people that really, really follow this issue very closely. And then there are people like me who like the idea of abortion being available, who are very much in favor of reproductive rights. And it's still baffling to me that literally decades after Roe was decided that we are still having this battle. It's so preposterous to me that we're still doing this in the 21st century. But as you mentioned, all the factors, the patriarchy, the racism, they need to keep these things going. So I guess that's why this fight continues. But thank you so much for everything that you do. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Kim. It was great to be here.
Awesome, guys. That's Garnet Henderson, freelance journalist and host of the Access podcast. You can get it anywhere where your podcasts are available. And gang, that is going to be our show. Thank you guys so much. Hold on. Thank you so much to Jan B, pledged us some euros. Oh, snap. We international hove. Well, not hove, but international BIDWKB out here. Thank you so much, Jan, for your euros. We will take your euros. We thank you for your euros. We appreciate that. Oh, and Courtney the SLP. Thank you so much, darling. I saw that you cashed apt us some bucks. Thank you so much, Courtney the SLP. And Courtney the SLP, real quick, because I went back and watched Tuesday's chat, and I was talking about being 5'2" and not being able to see nothing at the concerts. And here come Courtney the SLP in the chat talking about, I'm 5'8". I don't know that life. I don't have them problems. Miss, I can see over other people's heads. Go on, Courtney the SLP. Actually, her new name, y'all call Courtney the Stallion, since she 5'8" and she can see over people's heads, and she got jokes for us short people. So thank you so much, Courtney. We love you so much for all your support. Everybody else, we appreciate you. What's up, Afraid Not? What's up again, Northern Witch? Vespa, of course, we got all the good people in here. Jonathan Guerrero, Pookie Wood is in the building. I love to see it. Thank you, Alicia. Love you, baby. What's up, Nat A? What's up, Ursula Baptiste? All of our good folks came through today, so appreciate y'all. We will see y'all back here next week for Burn It Down with Kim Brown on Tuesday. Don't forget tonight, 7 o'clock, Luke Mon Nation over on Black Power Media, also Riot Starter TV. If you guys have not checked out Kalanji Changa's interview with Dr. Greg Carr, please be sure to do that. Do so. Check that out over on Black Power Media. Tomorrow, Warrior Class with Brother Balagoon Ojate. And just be sure to support all of the offerings that Black Power Media has that we have for y'all. So anyway, I'll see y'all. What's up?
Hey, want to get in real quick. Look, we got some space clearly on the shelf behind Kim, so we want suggestions. Okay, we want some input from the audience. What should be occupying the shelves? We try to put a few books there, but they're feeling a little lonely there. So we're gonna get some things up ourselves, but we'll leave some space for some suggestions from the audience. So let us know by the time Tuesday show comes by.
I'm curious the kind of things that might be suggested. So y'all keep it clean. This is a family show. Well, somewhat family show. It's PG-13. It's PG-13 for language and harsh language, harsh topics. So yeah, what's up, everybody? Okay. So y'all heard what Tunde said. Drop your suggestions for what should go on the shelf down in the comments. In the meantime, y'all have a great weekend. Don't forget, COVID is still out here jumping on people. Do what you need to do. Wear your mask, wash your hands, keep your distance, get your motherfucking vaccination, and be safe. On behalf of Tunde and Molly, I will see y'all back here on Tuesday. Thank y'all for coming out. See y'all later. Bye-bye from the fire pit. Woo!